are these people?
We know there was a ceasefire announced this week, or at least last Sunday, and except the terms of it were weird, and that Hamas sort of accepted it but wasn't at the signing. And meanwhile, Gazans are marching north again, returning to homes made of rubble, which we've shown the overhead drone shots. Going to, again, we're going to Indie Media Award honoree Mondoweiss for this one. All right, that as Palestinians return to the rubble of their homes, thank you, the effects of the genocide are being felt amid heightened social unrest. This war broke us. It damaged our souls. We need decades to heal, which of course they're not going to have because they're going to be kicked the fuck out of there, sadly. This picture of, and this was, wow, walking back to Gaza City. Okay. This is from APA Images. I'm stunned and speechless. All right.
Yep.
It was the moment everyone in southern Gaza had been waiting for, the chance to return to their homes, or what remained of them in Gaza City in northern Gaza. On October 10th, as part of the first phase of the ceasefire agreement reached between Israel and Hamas, throngs of people began the march back north. Now remember that Israel had just made them all march south. So now they're marching back north, moving up the coastal Al-Rashid Road in a slight reminiscent of Gazans' historic return march during the January March ceasefire earlier this year. There's not supposed to be more than one ceasefire in a year, guys. It's not really a ceasefire if that's what happened. On Saturday morning.
That's not how it works.
No, that's not how any of this works. On Saturday morning, a statement from the Gaza Civil Defense said that over 300,000 people had made the trek to Gaza City over the past 2 days. Quote, no tents or mobile homes are available to house the returnees from the south, unquote, the statement said. Of course not. Israel bombed it, went block by block after they cleared everybody and killed everyone that was still left. What the hell would be left? Ismail Thawabada, head of the government media office in Gaza, confirmed that the over 300,000 residential units have been destroyed, while over 200,000 units were partially destroyed. This led to the displacement of almost 2 million people from their homes, forcing them to live in tents and harsh conditions. Yes, we've known this for quite a while. We've covered the tents, and the tents that they literally had to park right next to sewage in order to have a place to sleep.
Yep.
The return movement is not limited to the southern areas of the Strip. Residents from Gaza City and Khan Yunis have also begun to return to neighborhoods from which they were displaced during the war, including eastern Khan Yunis, Ma'an, and Al-Batna Samin. Those areas had been previously inaccessible due to Israel's military presence there. They would basically shoot everyone on sight. As the Israeli army has withdrawn from parts of the territory, displaced families are attempting to reclaim what remains of their homes. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to go well for them because I think this is just temporary. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Those returning describe a mix of relief and devastation. We walked 8 hours to reach our neighborhood in Al-Shujaya, said Mahmoud Wadi, one of the returnees. When we arrived, we were shocked by the destruction. My home is gone. The entire area has been flattened. Still, we're grateful to be back and to know the bombing has stopped, but we're terrified over many things. Our lives, our children, our future. We don't know whether we'll live in a tent again for a long while or not. We have no sense of what the future holds, but we're grateful and happy that the war has ended. Wow. Still grateful. But still grateful after all they've been through, after how many times they've been sent to run. Grateful. Wadi, like many others, has begun gathering wood and fabric to build a makeshift tent near the ruins of his home. We don't know where to go. We don't know if schools still exist or whether they've been destroyed, which they probably have. None of us knows what the future looks like. Mahmoud Barbak, a resident of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, returned to his neighborhood in the eastern part of the city. He said that 4 months ago when he evacuated, his neighborhood was still livable. Now, there's nothing left. There's no life here. All we ask is for the world to help us clear the ruins and make it possible again for us to live with our families and our children to grow up here. Muaddi reflects what he and his loved ones have witnessed over the past 2 years and what it's done to them. This war broke us. It damaged our souls. We need decades to heal, and we need even more decades to rebuild our homes. But we will do it, he added, determined. And look at these pictures. That's people standing amongst destruction caused by Israel intentionally so they had nowhere to live.
Yeah, count the floors. Count the floors on those buildings behind you. This isn't like rural shacks that got pulled down. These are like apartment complexes and business buildings, and this is cities.
Yeah. Yeah. On the ground, Gaza's Interior Ministry announced that a new security plan for the Strip would be implemented as Israeli forces began to withdraw. The Interior Ministry and the National Security Forces in Gaza said in a statement that security forces will be deployed in the areas where the Israeli army withdrew to secure both public and private property and to manage the deliberate chaos created by the Israeli army during the war. It's also to stop these roving Israeli gangs like the one that murdered this journalist yesterday. That didn't happen by the IDF, but certainly wasn't having nothing to do with the IDF. When Israel broke the previous ceasefire in March and resumed its genocidal campaign, one of the chief targets of Israeli forces was civil servants in Gaza, working under the Ministry of the Interior, which included the Gaza police force and internal security forces. The systematic targeting of Hamas's means of ensuring civil order was intended to create a power vacuum in Gaza and sow chaos among the local populace. It's also the only people who had guns, likely. The Israeli army also funded and armed local criminal gangs in Gaza, as well as a number as well as a number of local clans to fight with Hamas and loot humanitarian aid in the Strip, further deepening social polarization, funding both sides of the fight. Where have we seen that before, huh?
Yep. Couple of places.
Like here. Those effects of those long months of social disintegration are now being felt. Of course they are. As the war winds down and the Israeli army withdraws from designated areas, clashes and infighting between Hamas members and local clans have broken out in parts of Gaza. During the war, the Ministry of Interior had established the Arrow Force, an internal security unit meant to fight aid looters, as well as clan members that Hamas accuses of collaborating with Israel. On Friday, members of the Arrow Force raided the residence of the Dogmosh family in Gaza City. On the same day, clashes erupted between Hamas members and other families in Deir al-Balah, resulting in the death of a Hamas member. Hamas's redeployment in the Gaza Strip caused fear among some groups that had been directly working with the IDF throughout the war. Most infamous among them, the hundreds of armed men in eastern Rafah led by Yasser Abu Shabab, another group led by Hussam al-Astal, and several others. You're not hearing any of these names in any of these stories on CNN or MSNBC or CBS News now, especially now that Barry Weiss is in charge. Right. Social media users in Gaza mocked Yasser Abu Shabab's group as the war's greatest losers amid reports that the IDF will not be evacuating them from Gaza to protect them from Hamas reprisal. So the IDF bailed on these guys and is leaving them to the wolves, effectively. Right? Now, on the humanitarian front, the Israeli-backed and U.S.-run Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, Reef and I both covered that quite a bit on this show and on INN News, ceased operations.
Yep.
as Israeli forces withdrew. How convenient. They all just packed their shit up and left. And they were rejoicing. They were, you could see the little pens that they had set up to kind of stable people and gather them up before they distributed food, all taken down. The GHF has been responsible for the killing of over 1,000 Palestinian aid seekers at its so-called humanitarian aid distribution points, which have been described as death traps by Palestinians, and by Anthony Aguilar, who testified in front of Congress about it. On Friday evening, photos circulating online showed GHF workers dismantling the foundation's facilities in preparation to leave the strip, confirming that the GHF would be left out of aid distribution during the ceasefire. Good. Get them the fuck out of there. They never should have been there in the first place. So that's our first part of the Fuck Israel segment, which has got several portions to it. This one is unbelievable. This is just a literally before and after shot of overhead north of Gaza. Okay, according to Gaza notifications, has been wiped off the map, according and reduced to rubble by the IOF, where they've literally been carving stars of David in the soil to mark it. But that's what it used to look like on the left. And I'm going to let it run one more time, and that's what it looks like now on the right. Awful.
Yep.
Fuck Israel for that. Next, we've talked about this man quite a bit, and this was one of the things that I said, look, if it's a ceasefire, they better let Hussam Abu Safiya out of prison, or it's not really a ceasefire. They're not really this isn't really a peace agreement. It's a temporary pause. Wait, what? Go start saying he's set to be released? Not according to this. Because according to all
it just
reports,
came out.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's
literally
amazing.
like an hour ago.
Because part of my thing was
allegedly
that they weren't going to let him out. All right. And that for 10 months he's been held without charge, an administrative prisoner, in reality as a hostage. His lawyer reports he's lost significant weight. His health is deteriorating. He's suffering from scabies. No charges, no trial, no justice. Israel is not just punishing.
Israeli media under pressure from mediators. The list of Palestinian prisoners have been amended, and Hussam Abu Safiya will be released from Israeli prisons in a prisoner exchange deal. Names that the Knesset just approved: Mahmoud Ibrahim Misbashik, Muhammad Saeed Abdel Rahman Sarhan, Rami Ibrahim Al-Khalut, Awad Safi Mubarak, and Dr. Hussam Idris Omar Abu Safiya.
All right. Well, that's amazing news. But again, for 10 months, we've been calling for him to be released. He did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
He willingly walked into their tank to have a conversation, and they kidnapped him and threw him in a hole and tortured him. So that would be incredible news if he was actually getting let out and set free and able to return home and recover. And you know that the minute that guy recovers, he's running right back to a fucking hospital to take care of others, because that's the kind of person he is. I can tell you that right now. And I've never met the man, but I can tell you that right now. Just for everything everyone's told us about him. All right. Here you go. If the Israeli-Palestinian agreement is implemented in full to the letter, there will still be numerous hostages that have not been released. So again, while it's amazing news that he's going to be potentially now, there will still be thousands in Israeli prisons without charge. And let's not forget that. But that is fantastic news if that's really what's going to happen. So next, I have an article from Ricky over at Council of State Media, 2024 Indie Media Award honoree for one of the best outlets out there. All right. Reminding people that Israel has agreed to another one of those ceasefires where Israel doesn't cease firing. Oops. They carried out around 12 to 15 bombings after they announced it and had already signed off on it. This is what happens the minute there's an agreement announced. They start upping the bombings. So what happened here? According to Ricky, we finally have a ceasefire in Gaza. Unfortunately, it looks like it's one of those ceasefires where Israel keeps firing until the deal inevitably collapses and the Western world blames Hamas. Still, any ceasefire, even a flawed one, could lead to a reduction in the number of deaths, and a reduction is better than nothing, I guess. And that's the I guess part of the, ceasefire, I guess, sort of. Phase 1 of the ceasefire is supposed to be underway, and Itmar war criminal Ben Gvir is livid, even though Israel seems to be massacring Palestinians like normal. Here's footage of an Israeli attack that took place shortly after the ceasefire was agreed, and I'm not going to play the video. But you can I'll put the link in, you can watch these yourself. The civilians were reportedly attacked by tanks while celebrating the announcement of the ceasefire. It seems Israel decided to postpone the ceasefire and massacre them out of pure spite. There were more such attacks across Gaza, and the first is understood to have taken place just 20 minutes after the ceasefire was agreed. If this is a sign of things to come, the hope of a reduction in the killing rate might be wishful thinking. One attack reportedly took place at a residential home in Al-Shabra, where 40 people were sheltering and 4 were killed. It's unclear the number of injuries, but here's footage of one of the victims with the gore blurred out. You can clearly see that's blood hanging out of it. It's hard to know just how many attacks have taken place since the ceasefire was agreed, because some reports could be of the same incident. It seems to be in the range of 12 to 15 bombings, but given there's almost no journalists left in Gaza, it's possible that more have gone unreported. Here's footage of an explosion in Gaza that I understand also took place earlier today. From Reuters. All right, fuck Reuters. I'm not playing that. If you have agreed to a ceasefire, there is no reason to continue bombing unless your goal is not peace. It's unclear exactly when the ceasefire was originally meant to start, but Israel started withdrawing its troops a few hours ago. Israel agreed to pull its forces back to a line bisecting Gaza, but not to leave Gaza completely, because of course not. What that means in real terms is anyone's guess, but I'm assuming Israel thinks it's fine for air attacks to continue. Here's footage of a helicopter attack in Gaza City. And here's footage of Israeli warplanes. So, to be clear, both of these air attacks took place after the ceasefire agreement. Pulling back your forces, I have your tweet, Reef, don't worry. Pulling back your forces,
okay.
but letting the bombs continue to fall is not a ceasefire. It's just a break for your soldiers. Let's not forget that we had a ceasefire 9 months ago, and we all know what happened there. Every time Israel agrees to a ceasefire, it goes on a massive killing spree, as though it must get as much killing in as possible at the last minute. It then decides that it didn't like the ceasefire terms and abandons it. Obviously, I have zero faith in Israel honoring this ceasefire agreement, but let's take a look at it anyway. The good piece of news is that there will be a prisoner swap. Hamas will release all remaining Israeli prisoners within 72 hours, and Israel will release about 2,000 Palestinian hostages. The bodies of the dead will be returned. While this is good, let's not forget Israel will still have around 7,000 to 8,000 Palestinian hostages when this swap is complete. Again, without charges in torture prisons. Israel, it seems, has the right to keep hostages. The Rafah crossing will finally open both ways, allowing in unrestricted humanitarian aid. But of course, the people still aren't allowed to leave with the right to return, but that's a whole other story. Israel's idea of unrestricted is different to everyone else's, but this aid will be coming through Egypt. Importantly, the ceasefire does not allow for the forced displacement of Palestinians, and it does allow for some Palestinians to return home, meaning that it is a major roadblock for the Greater Israel Project, more like a speed bump. This explains why Ben Gvir is so mad and why few believe that the ceasefire will last. It's all performative theater as far as I'm concerned, and kind of kicking the can down the road cruelly. That's how I see it, at least. The next phase of the ceasefire would involve the dismantlement of Hamas. However, Hamas would only agree to disarm if there was a cast iron guarantee of no return to war, which Israel wasn't willing to do. There is talk of a potential role for the Palestinian Authority in the governance of Gaza. But given that Tony Blair is meant to be taking over for the next 5 years, the situation is clear as mud. The fearless Palestinians have already begun returning north on foot, having walked across their country multiple times throughout this genocide. They will likely find their homes a rubble, and we found out that they did. And they will face the threat of undetonated explosives and dangerous conditions, but even this would be an upgrade on the hell that they've endured. Oh, man. Fuck Israel, man. Again, and the tweet that I'm talking about is right here, I believe. Ceasefire, it was from Refaat originally, and re-quoted it. What usually happens in occupied Palestine is that Palestinians cease and Israel fires. Fuck Israel.
Yep.
From the mouth of Refaat. So that was the Council of State. And then we've got, what's next? Mondoweiss. Here's another one. The Israeli media is already reporting on a secret clause in the Gaza ceasefire deal that no one is talking about. And what do? They do it in Hebrew. This is like they're communicating amongst themselves, and then they homogenize it for the English, for the Westerners. It's disgraceful.
Right.
So Hebrew language Israeli media reports that there is a secret clause buried in the Gaza ceasefire agreement that would allow Israel to resume the war. You mean the massacre. Again, it's not a war when the other side isn't fighting back. Palestinians worry that this is pretext Netanyahu needs to get out of completing the deal. It's exactly what happened. And it's the same thing as when he had permission to not go to the second phase, and they said that when it first happened last time, and then they did exactly that. The ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas could collapse due to an alleged secret clause in the agreement that would allow Israel to resume the massacre, according to reports in the Arab and Hebrew language Israeli media. That so-called clause would reportedly be activated in the event that Hamas is unable to locate all the Israeli captives within the 72-hour window allotted to the Palestinian resistance group during the first part of the deal's implementation. So all they have to do is claim that one person has not been returned, and all this gets called off. On Friday, Al Jazeera's Palestine chief bureau, Walid al-Omari, pointed out on the network's live broadcast that the second article of the deal concerning the release of Israeli captives included a phrase in the Hebrew version about an undisclosed annex. According to al-Omari, if Hamas fails to release all captives, dead and alive, a quote-unquote secret clause in Appendix B would be activated. Now, word is, and I'm going to have this in a minute, but Al Jazeera in the West Bank got raided and shut down as a result, probably, of this report. Yeah. Israel's Can TV was the first to report on the clause, which was subsequently covered by other Israeli media outlets. According to Can, an unnamed source which had been exposed to the content of the secret clause said that it was jumbles of words. Israel's Channel 13 also reported that an Israeli court dismissed a petition to disclose the secret contents of the deal, citing security considerations. Sure. So they're just not allowed to tell us. Although the alleged clause implies punitive consequences on Hamas in the event of failing to meet the 72-hour deadline, Hamas official Osama Hamdan said in an interview hours after the deal was first announced that the time needed to find, gather, and release Israeli captives would depend on field conditions. Hamdan added that locating the captives might take longer. They're buried under rubble. They're in tunnels, who knows where. The entire communication system and infrastructure system has been decimated. It may take a little while. Of course, Donald Trump also admitted that finding the dead bodies of Israeli captives might take longer than anticipated. But that won't change the fact that they're going to call off the deal in 72 hours. Hamas has officially denied the existence of such a clause. A Hamas official told Al Jazeera that, quote, the reported rumors concerning the presence of secret clauses in the agreement to end the war in Gaza are completely untrue. I hope that's correct. It doesn't really even matter if they think it's true or not. If Israel believes it's true and says it, it's going to be. And if that's how they're going to act in accordance. The potential existence of such a secret clause has reinforced already existing Palestinian concerns that Benjamin Milikowski, war criminal, would seek to find a way to sabotage the deal, which of course he's going to. Already in March, Israel broke the first ceasefire after the release of all civilian Israeli captives in the first phase of the deal. So all civilians were already released. Now we're just talking about IDF captives who they've already started to set up the narrative were starved, right? Okay, because they didn't starve the rest of Gaza. But of course, now the Hamas operatives are expected to give the Israeli captives the only food that they have and keep them fed and not starving while everyone else there starves.
Which I'm betting.
No, they're going to come back emaciated and starving if they're alive. All right. Yeah. Last July, Hamas accepted a proposed deal following talks through Egyptian and Qatari mediators, while Netanyahu completely ignored it as mediators waited for Israel's response. And allegedly, some mediators were killed. So some of the Qatari mediators or somebody was killed in Egypt yesterday. Israel's just murdering everyone. I'm going to accuse Israel. I don't know if it's come out yet, but I'm sure it will be. Moreover, the lack of any additional terms within the deal for the end of a war, known as Trump's 20-point plan, has contributed to the spread of such reports in Arab media outlets. Issues related to disarmament, Gaza's post-war administration, and Israel's withdrawal have all been relegated until after the prisoner exchange, when they can pull back and say, you know what? That's it. We're going to go back to bombing after they've already allowed the people to walk all the way back north. And they're going to bomb them again and make them run back to the south. Yes, Dissent in Bloom says, I feel like they do these ceasefires so people return to their homes, making them sitting ducks. It's like a sick game for them. I totally agree. If they have all intent to break the ceasefire, it's literally just forcing displaced, starving people to once again migrate north on the hope that they might be getting their homes back and then bomb them there. Or displace them again and tell them they have to go back south because they're going to take that land now too. Israeli media reported late on Thursday that talks ended over the names and numbers of Palestinian prisoners and detainees set to be released as part of the deal. Israel had reportedly vetoed the names of Fatah leader Marwan Barghouti, God, the Secretary General of the PFLP, Ahmad Sadat. Another Israeli veto was placed on the names of 14 out of 303 Palestinians serving life sentences because they're Palestinians who hold Israeli citizenship. The final list of agreed upon names still haven't been yet made public. Meanwhile, the Israeli army began its withdrawal from Gaza City and other parts of the Strip. The Israeli army would remain in control of 53% of the Strip, excluding urban areas. Yeah, like all the farmland, by the way. Yeah, meanwhile, Palestinians have started to return to Gaza City following the entry of the ceasefire into effect on Friday. This comes after almost a month of Israel's largest offensive yet on Gaza City, which included 3 army divisions and the detonation of hundreds of remotely controlled and outdated armored personnel carriers packed with explosives in civilian neighborhoods. Did you talk about that on INN News, or was it us that talked about that on this show? I don't even remember.
I think it was us.
But but they were sending like unmanned, old, decommissioned APCs into parts of the city,
right, and blowing
detonating
them,
which would take out a building with it.
Yeah,
or
like
city
full
block.
of C4.
Yep.
You know?
Before the announcement of the ceasefire Thursday, Israel had pushed around 900,000 Palestinians out of Gaza City. Israel's war on Gaza, which they announced following Hamas's October 7th attack, has killed over 66,000. I'm not even going to use that number. Again, Kareem made a post that if you're still using that number, it does a disservice to the Palestinians. It's over 500,000 Palestinians. Again, a third of we know whom were children under 18. The war displaced almost 2 million Palestinians and destroyed both the health and education systems and infrastructure. The war has been recognized as a genocide by the United Nations. Again, it's not even a war because nobody has fought back, really, in any substance since October 7th or October 8th. And October 7th, in many ways, was allowed to happen. And we've seen multiple evidence. And check out The Dissident at the307.substack.com for more on that. Just a reminder, it's not a ceasefire. It's a paused genocide. Okay? And that is from the Free Julian Assange Facebook group, which is still active. So, pardon Julian Assange. All right. And fuck Israel. So that's our fuck Israel segment for this week. I have hope for the Palestinian people, but I have no faith in the Israeli people to honor the agreement that they've now allegedly signed off on. And we will continue to call out all the nonsense and try to hold Trump administration feet to the fire on everything that they claim and fight for these people because so few are. And bless the people that are fighting for them because you're on the right side of history. And I think you all know that. The majority of the world sides with the Palestinian people. Unfortunately, the leadership and the big money sides with Israel. Now, we are not going to be remonetized by YouTube for a segment like that. So if you're able to, it means please support this channel, support independent media. Those are the people who've already done so. The ways to do that are Cash App, $ Indie News Network. That comes right to my phone. We got code-fee.com/Indie News Network, and that'll show up on screen. PayPal.me/Indie News Network as friends and family for no fees. IndieNewsNow.com is our self-hosted website where you can keep the news free there too. And then over at Substack where we are live, and we've got some people chatting over there. Good to see you all. Revolution continues. Donna Everett, thank you. IndieMediaToday.com over at Substack. And we're going to be live later at INNNewsletter.com for boats smashing into other boats for our React show. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. I love you all. We'll see you soon, fam.
Bye. Have a great time.
Hasta la vista, baby. I'll be back.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want?